All right, here we go, guys. First of all, I want to apologize for being behind on my videos. It has been a rough week so far, and I know there's no excuses, and I'm not trying to make them. So, anyway, they should have been done. I'm actually going to do the story of an hour, and then I'm going to do our poetry selections. There's 4 of those very short poems. I'm going to do those, and I'm going to come back and do To Build a Fire later. That is not a difficult read. It's just a long read. And the problem with it probably is I need to point out some of the issues with naturalism. And that's going to be a longer video, and I have to pick up my son today. So I can knock these out and go back and get it. So, of course, this doesn't matter. By the time this goes up, I'll probably have all of them. But those of you who are watching these as they come out and are waiting on that video, I promise it's coming. Just give me a little bit of time. So let's talk about the story of an hour first. The story of an hour is the story I have always seen used when discussing irony in classes. Usually 11th or 10th grade sometimes. This is the story they use. It does something very unique with the ending where it actually uses, and I know people are going to think this isn't possible, but in a way it is. It's going to use situational and dramatic irony. And of course we want to talk about the 3 types. The 3 high school types. Actually, in college you may be introduced to another type of irony that I've mentioned before with some of my AP classes, but we're not going to fool with that today. So the first thing you got kind of as an outlier sits by itself. That's verbal irony. Verbal irony is going to use the language and how we present it and the words you use, being mean, having a different meaning than what's expected. So here's how people always use puns as an example. Puns are the worst example of verbal irony in my opinion. Exaggeration or hyperbole, understatement, those are examples of verbal irony. But my favorite kind is what Shakespeare does when he uses double meanings in his words. So when Shakespeare says, when he has a character in Macbeth tell another character that when he last saw his family, they were at peace, there's 2 ways to approach that. At peace could mean they're comfortable or they're content. It also could mean they're at peace as in they're dead, as they're at rest. In that instance, the character thinks he means, at peace as in they're okay, but we, the readers, just were treated to the last scene where his family was killed. So we know that he doesn't mean that. He actually means they're dead. So that's verbal irony, okay? Verbal irony is not like a primary driving force in any story. It's really just kind of an additional thing that's thrown in to show how clever the writer is, honestly. I apologize for continuously adjusting my collar here. It's bothering me. Now, dramatic and situational irony are the 2 that, you see a lot of. Situational irony being like that twist ending or a surprise that comes up. This story definitely has a couple of those elements that are very situational. It doesn't always have to be a twist ending. It can just be a twist in the story. It's something you didn't see coming, and there's foreshadowing maybe if you go back and look, but for the most part, it hits you out of nowhere. Dramatic irony, on the other hand, comes from the term drama, as in it's typically seen in plays where the audience knows something that the characters are not supposed to know. So we see it coming. It's like in a horror movie where the killer's hiding behind the shower curtain, but the person in there doesn't, and you want to scream, "Hey, watch out! You're going to get murdered." But that's the difference in the 2. Okay. So with all of that, which you've already had, you've been doing this for years, since middle school. With all that in mind, let's look at the story of an hour, which is a really cool short story. It's a very simple, basic one. And I told this in my classes, the shorter a story is, the more you have to pay attention to every detail mattering. Now, any length of a story, all the details matter. Authors choose those on purpose. But this one in particular, there's a couple of details that you really want to pay attention to. And there's one found right in the very first paragraph when they point out that Miss Mallard has heart trouble. Okay, so that's going to come back later, but you got to know that the author sets this up. Kate Chopin sets this up really well. Let me back up real quick and point out something that I know is going to immediately, make some of you tighten up. But this story is an early example of feminist works in U.S. literary history. Now, by the way, this is not a bad thing, and those of you who immediately tense up about the term feminism need to calm yourselves down. This is not like you don't have to open the door for me, I can do everything a man can do, or I can do everything a woman can do, well, that would be feminism, but you know what I mean there, sexism. That is not what we're dealing with here. This is the whole concept, back when women can't vote. Women don't really have control of their lives in this time period. So this type of feminism is really about equality, and not that the modern kind is even a problem for me, but I know it bothers some of you. So, excuse me. Can't answer the phone while I'm videoing. I apologize for the break there. So, let's see. So as this starts, know that's in the background of this, all right? So anyway, right away, we find out, and they jump right into it. There's no build-up. There's no real exposition of this story. The main character, Mrs. Mallard, learns that her husband has been killed in a car wreck, and we get this whole image of her sitting in her room processing this issue. She starts by thinking about the death of, how it impacts her. She's crying. It's obvious she cares about him because she gets upset. She cries. She sobs uncontrollably and runs off to her room. So there's no, if Chopin had made it where this woman wasn't sad about her husband dying, that would be a problem. But she's definitely sad. So she's in her room, but then all of a sudden she starts having a thought come to mind that really bugs her, and she doesn't want to think it. And that thought is the idea that actually her life's going to be better with him gone. She starts thinking about her freedom that she's going to have, how she can dictate what she wants out of her life. And that's the feminist element. The fact that this woman is glad her husband, who, for all intents and purposes seems to really love her, the fact that she's glad he's dead so that she can have a little control of her own life is a problem. People shouldn't be in that situation, okay? So, she really struggles with it, but then she comes to grips with it, and she even begins to get excited about it. And that's what caused this story problems when it was initially written. People didn't want to publish it because it makes her look cold and callous, and you can even get that reading it on your own. But I want you to think about how it must feel for this poor woman to, her whole purpose in life is to serve her husband, and that's it. Obviously, she would get excited about the fact that, she's going to have money now to take care of herself. She's can choose her own, what she wants for dinner. I mean, simple things that we take for granted today. So she's really gets pretty excited about it, honestly. There's more details that pop up that you can find on your own that indicate that she's not an unhappy wife. If she had been, this story loses all of its thematic value, but that's not the case. She really does still care. And then all of a sudden she gets it together. She decides to come out. Everyone thinks she's upset. She comes out, and here's where the situational irony snaps in. As she's walking down the stairs, she hears a door open. Her husband walks in. Remember, this is in the 1850s, 1860s, where news didn't travel as reliably as it does today. And I put that in quotation marks because, goodness, our news is anything but reliable these days. But she didn't, she's shocked. She sees him come in the door. I mean, she had already I realize it's in a very short period. That's why it's the story of an hour. I mean, in an hour, she gets over her husband's death and is now excited and looking forward to the rest of her life. But, within that time period, she had come to grips with this, and then she sees him, and it completely, floors her. She passes out, and she has a heart attack and dies. That's the situation. You didn't expect a woman to die like that, but that's what happens. Here's why it's dramatic, too. It says that when the doctors came, they saw she had died of heart disease, of joy that kills. So the doctors thought she was so happy to see him that in her weakened state, it got to her. That's why you need to know there's a heart problem at the beginning, because that makes this feasible. Most of us don't die of a heart attack from good things if your heart's normal. But what makes it dramatic is we know as readers that that's not what happened. She died she was upset. She was not happy. All right. And that's kind of the, sorry, I thought I heard somebody at my door. That's the, where the irony in this story comes in. It's very short, to the point. I mean, really, you didn't probably need me to guide you through this, but I wanted to make sure videos were available for this. Okay. All right, well, I'm trying to keep these as short as possible because I know some of you are really swamped. So that's going to get this one done. Remember, if you have any questions, to email me and let me know that so that I can guide you on any of the questions you have with this, whether they're just generic, like you're not sure what happened, or whether they're the questions that I provided for you on OneNote. Be sure to go back and do those. Those of you who are working from home, you may have missed some of that stuff because, I am shrinking a full class period down into 10 minutes. So it is a little more difficult for you, I'm sure. All right. Okay, well, I'm going to end this video, and I'm going to turn around and start another one where we're going to cover the 4 poems that are in this section. They're, so good, so good. So we're going to look at those, and I hope to see you back for those.